my channel. I am Heather Tiemann. I am a realtor down here in the beautiful Lexington, Columbia, South Carolina. And today we are going to be talking about frequently asked questions for people that are looking to move to the Lexington, Columbia area. But before we get started, you know what I'm going to ask? If you could please like and subscribe to my channel, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. So let's hop on in this. One thing that I do note, you're able to get a really big deep dive into these questions, because I'm gonna just kind of hit the highlights, because a lot of these questions when you get asked, I've covered in depth in other videos. You're welcome to scroll back through my channel, and I've really hit a lot of these in depth on other videos. But this, I kind of want to give you a general overview of these questions. And you can also find us on Facebook at Moving to Lexington, South Carolina, which will have a lot of other people's opinions besides mine, because while I do think very highly of my opinion, everybody has different opinions. So let's go ahead and get started. So the number one, I wouldn't say number one, but one of the top questions that are asked are, what is the cost of living in Lexington, Columbia, South Carolina? So it's something to keep in mind with cost of living is that Lexington and Columbia are both very big areas. So I'm going to be giving you kind of broad numbers that can give you a general idea of the area. So the average home price in Lexington was $363,939 in August of 2024. And then the average home price in Columbia, which again covers a very broad area, it is a very, very large area, is roughly $300,179. With that comes property taxes. Every year you pay property taxes, and this is kind of where South Carolina shines in a sense if it is your primary residence. So the property taxes in Lexington County, again, this is going to change tax district to tax district. It's going to give you just kind of a general estimate. It could vary, you know, by $100, couple $100. It could be more or less for both Lexington and Columbia. Columbia is actually in Richland County. So for the most part, there are some areas of Columbia that are actually in Lexington County. It's very confusing. But for Lexington County, at a purchase price of $363,939, you can expect to pay roughly $2,460 in property taxes per year for your home. And then in Richland County, where Columbia is mostly located, for a $300,179 property, you can expect to pay $2,103. Now, again, that will vary between what district you are located in. So don't quote me on that. But definitely something, it kind of gives you a general idea that it will be roughly around that amount when you are considering a home purchase. Certain areas of Columbia are more expensive than others. Certain areas of Lexington are more expensive than others. So it's just weighing what home benefits you the most. And when we're also talking about property taxes, something to also take into consideration, we mentioned this 1,000 times, is we do pay annual property taxes on our vehicles. That includes cars, trucks, boats, boat motors, and your RVs. So that is definitely something to take into consideration, because those can get quite costly. If you want a deeper dive into the cost of living, specifically in those property taxes, I do have a cost of living video where I really deep dive into that. So definitely check that out. And then lastly, utilities. So utilities are going to vary. We have a lot of homes that are on well and septic, which would pretty much get rid of your well and septic bill. But we also have a lot of our own city water or, you know, a private water. So personally, I pay somewhere between $60 and $80 a month for water and sewer, and that's going to vary. So on average, your utility bills for your electric is going to be somewhere in the ballpark of about $200 to $225, and it is a little bit higher than the national average. So definitely something to keep in mind. I know for a lot of states it's a lot cheaper, but it can also be a lot more expensive depending on the state. So definitely something to keep in mind, and as mentioned, I do go further into detail in that other video. On to number 2, most frequently asked questions, and that is our job market. So our job market here in South Carolina is pretty strong overall. So the not seasonally adjusted unemployment numbers for August were in Lexington County 4.6%, and then in Richland County it was 5.5%. So it is a little bit higher in Richland County than it is in Lexington County. Some of our heavy hitters that employ a lot of people in this area are going to be Blue Cross Blue Shield, University of South Carolina, Richland and Lexington County, Prisma Health, as well as Lexington Medical Center, Amazon, and Michelin. So those are going to be some of your heavy hitters in the area that employ a lot of people. So on to number 3 for our most frequently asked questions, our local amenities. What is there to do? So in Lexington and Columbia and the surrounding areas, we have a lot to do. I'm not going to dwell too deeply into that, but some of the local amenities that people enjoyed, some of our bigger ones, are going to be Riverbank Zoo, which is an award-winning zoo. It is beautiful. They put a lot of money into that zoo, and they put a lot of love into that zoo. And I've been to quite a few in my lifetime, and I really and truly enjoy Riverbank Zoo. It's large enough, but without being too large, if that makes sense. Then you have Adventure, which is our children's museum in Columbia. Great for kids, probably under 10. I think once you're over 10, it is probably not the best, but under 10, especially under maybe 6, are really going to enjoy Adventure. Then you also have Lake Murray, which you can boat, you can fish, you can swim, you can kayaks, jet ski, water ski, whatever you want. There's a lot to do on Lake Murray. One thing I do like to note about that is there's not a ton of public access to Lake Murray because Lake Murray is owned by Dominion. So there is the Lexington side, which has a beach access, and then Dreher Shores State Park also has a beach access. There are a lot of access points, but a lot of those are going to be like public boat ramps or just places to maybe have a picnic, and not as many actual beach accesses to Lake Murray, if that makes sense. So we have many local parks. There's the Virginia Highlands Park that just was remodeled, and it is beautiful. We have the new park that just opened at the Old Mill, which is just kind of a walking trail around this beautiful pond. We have Gibson Pond Park. There's a lot of smaller parks locally. Then we also have some bigger parks. Like I mentioned earlier, we have Dreher Shores State Park, which is massive. There's so much to do there, and you can also access Lake Murray there. And then we also have Saluda Shoals, which is a little bit closer to the Lexington side. So it's located in Irmo, and it is beautiful. They have an inclusive park there. They have a splash pad. They have walking trails, picnic tables, really anything you can imagine is at Saluda Shoals. At Christmas time, they also have a drive-through light show, which is a very big attraction in our area. Then we also have many river walk parks where you can walk alongside the rivers. We have Soda City Market in downtown Columbia. And then we also have the State Museum, the Columbia Museum of Art, and along with a ton of other things. So I kind of hit our heavy hitters in there, but if you want more details about like different amenities that may be available, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to go deeper into that. So on to number 4 of our frequently most asked questions is weather. And normally I would say our weather's pretty good. We actually just got hit by Hurricane Helene, which actually was probably the worst hurricane that us in the Midlands here have been hit with since Hurricane Hugo. Hurricane Hugo was in 1989, so quite some years ago. Don't want to age myself, but quite some years ago. So we can get hit by hurricanes, but generally we don't. So Hurricane Helene just hit. We had a lot of downed trees. Most of Lexington and Richland County have power back. So we got hit Thursday night into Friday morning. And as of today, which is Thursday the next week, over 95% of people in Lexington and Richland County have their power back. But it did cause a decent amount of devastation. Not nearly as much as it did in the upstate as well as Western North Carolina, but it did hit us pretty hard. So definitely something to keep in mind if that is something you're very concerned about. Overall, our weather is pretty mild, except for in the summer. It is very hot, very humid during the summer. And people will come visit and they'll say, well, my state, it gets to this temperature sometimes during the summer. The problem with, I wouldn't say problem, but the thing with South Carolina is that's your entire summer. It is always hot and always humid throughout the entire summer. It's not a week here and a week there. It's constant. But our fall and our springs are beautiful. Absolutely stunning. Perfect weather. Winters, mild. It can get kind of cold here on occasion. Occasionally we will hit below freezing. Not super often. We may hit really cold temperatures for 2 or 3 days throughout the year, but for the most part, winter here is very mild. It's very, very rare that we ever see snow. Maybe a light dusting every 2 to 3 years. So for most part, 3 of our 4 seasons are pretty mild. I kind of hit on this in another video, but there is something I want to bring up here that's not really weather related per se, but during our spring we do have a very heavy allergy season. So if you are someone that suffers from pollen allergies, you may be greatly suffering during our spring, and it lasts for about a month and a half. So definitely something to keep in mind if you are considering a move here, because it can be unbearable. Even as someone that has mild pollen allergies, I'm definitely stuffy, I'm definitely having a hard time breathing, and honestly it's a lot of cleaning to clean all this pollen off your cars and your front porches. So definitely something to keep in mind if you are considering a move here. And number 5, and our last one, is going to be the schools. Schools are probably one of our biggest questions that we get asked, and as a realtor, I can't answer that. I can't answer if the schools are good or bad. Legally, I just can't. Now, are there realtors out there that don't follow the rules? Yes, but I'm not one of those. I follow the rules. I'm a rule follower. So with the schools, I highly recommend that you check out local Facebook groups and ask parents for their opinions, because parents can give you a deeper insight. Even if a school is rated very highly, maybe it's not very well liked by parents, or maybe it's not ranked very high, but the parents absolutely love it. I do, when I'm looking at schools for my children, I really take into consideration what other parents think, but also understand that opinions are like, they're a dime a dozen. So really take that for what you will. You can also find out more about school ratings on greatschools.org as well as niche.com, and then you can also look at the state report cards for each individual school. Something I do keep in mind, that even if a school district is rated very highly, that does not mean that every single school within that district is rated very highly. You do have certain districts where they have a school that is rated very, very, very high, which means they're, average or below average schools seem much higher because the school district is rated so high. So if that is a concern for you, you definitely want to research that, really research the schools prior to deciding on if this is the right fit for you. Also, you can tour schools sometimes. Most of the time, as long as you call the school and let them know, they will plan it and they will take you on a tour of the school, and you can ask questions, see how involved the administration is, along with asking any questions that you may have. So that is my 5 most frequently asked questions. As I said, that I wasn't going to deep dive into these, but I mean, honestly, this video is still almost 15 minutes. So I can only imagine what would happen if I did deep dive. But definitely, if you have any questions, my contact information is down in the description box below. I am always happy to answer any questions that you may have, as well as provide any resources that I can. But I'm gonna hop on out here, and until next time, bye.